Welcome to Reddit Reader, funeral organizers of Reddit. What are the weirdest or most unique funerals you have organized? I've been in the funeral industry for over 10 years now, and most services I have arranged have been run of the mill. Most people seem to want similar things, but one service will always stand out to me. A family asked us to play some hardcore gangster rap for their mother and grandmother at her service, and we happily obliged. I can't quite remember the name of the song, but it had heavy themes of murder, drug use, and pretty foul language. Her service was then finished with a recital of the Lord's Prayer. When my grandfather died, we had a request we were afraid was odd, but the funeral director told us he'd seen much, much stranger, so it was okay. My grandfather was big into motorcycles. He had Harleys as long as I can remember, and even after he had his hip surgery and the doctor told him not to ride anymore, he retooled his bike into a trike so he could still ride. So after he died, my uncle outfitted the trike with a special rig, very secure and very safe, so that we could take him to the cemetery in his coffin on the back of the motorcycle. My uncle drove the motorcycle while all of the members of my grandfather's riding club circled him from the funeral parlor to the cemetery. It was badass and awesome, and I know my grandfather would have loved it. As a funeral music planner and organist, I've worked with families on many funerals to honor special requests. One was a Wizard of Oz themed funeral, where the deceased woman had loved the original movie and requested that music from it be used. Pallbearers and friends of the family dressed in costumes of the principal characters as they entered the church, including dozens of munchkins, Toto, and the witch. There wasn't a dry eye after the eulogy when the soloist sang Over the Rainbow, but many smiles as the coffin was carried out of the church en route to the cemetery, as everyone sang, "We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz." Not a funeral organizer, but one of my sisters was killed by a drunk driver, so as a family we were trying to figure out what to do for her funeral and memorial. She was cremated, so we had a lovely memorial at my dad's place outside and planted a couple of trees for her. My sister had a big personality in life, and she loved to have fun and make people laugh. My other sisters and I decided that rather than wear black, we would wear the most outrageous ball gowns we could get our hands on. Mine ended up being black with peacock feathers embroidered all over. One of my sisters wore an enormous orange tutu. She would have absolutely loved it. It helped make the day a little less bitter and a little more sweet. Best non tragic one for me. Pallbearers so drunk they could barely stand, let alone carry the casket. They agreed to wheel out on a trolley, some still holding their goon sacks, bladders used in box wine for your non Aussies, and their free hand. Something about your mentioning not being able to carry the casket reminded me of my grandmother's funeral. She had been in denial about her imminent death right up to the very end, had refused to plan her funeral or talk about it at all with anyone. Since we had a lot of family across the country and out of the country, when she died, my grandpa decided to bury her quickly and informally and have a long, beautiful memorial for her once everyone could get there. So at the informal burial, we had no service or anything, just met at the graveyard and watched her casket be buried. There was a little confusion about getting the casket from the hearse to the grave digging truck. Only my dad, brother, and husband were strong enough to do it, meaning we were going to have to impose on the hearse driver and the grave digger to help us. Looking around, wondering in the moment who else could help, my dad beckoned my grandpa over to carry a side of the casket. My 89-year-old grandpa. I looked at my dad like he was crazy, but my grandpa stepped forward like he was maybe going to try. In that moment, I realized my dad saw my grandpa very differently than I did. I saw him as a frail old man, which he is. My dad saw him as, well, dad. Strong, capable, that larger than life persona of what a man should be. My dad just had no idea how frail his father had become, because in his mind, he was and always will be dad, and everything that comes with the word. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and subscribe so you don't miss our next upload.